My friends, the day has finally arrived.
What are you talking about?
Nearly 4 months out of getting straight up finessed out of seeing a train on this line, me and the boys are finally seeing rail action on the CSX Gainesville Midland branch. For those of you who are unaware of the railscape of this area, the two main lines that run through this part of North Georgia are the Norfolk Southern Greenville District and the CSX Abbeville Subdivision. Lying in between these two mainline branches is the short line Hartwell Railroad, the Norfolk Southern Commerce Branch, which extends from Lula, Georgia down to Center, Georgia, from where the Great Walton Railroad picks up the trackage and continues to Athens, Georgia. And then we have the wonderful CSX Gainesville Midland Branch.
Incredible.
Which originates in Gainesville and terminates in Athens, Georgia. The CSX Gainesville Midland Branch once belonged to the Gainesville Midland Railroad, which had steam and diesel locomotive power running its trains until it was bought out by the Seaboard Airline in 1959, until the Seaboard Airline eventually merged with the Atlantic Coast Line to form the Seaboard Coast Line, and then the Seaboard Coast Line merged with the Chessie system to form CSX that we know today. Hence how this trackage now belongs to CSX. Being that this line is short and scenic, you could probably guess that it is very dead. Practically all the traffic that this line sees is either as-needed grain trains that terminate in Gainesville, Georgia, or one of two locals that are scheduled throughout the week, CSX L822 and CSX L821. L821 being the local that we have come across today. And we happened to arrive in Gainesville right as the northbound turn was coming in before preparing to go back south towards Pendergrass. A rather surprising find because L821, at least according to the CSX train symbol wiki, doesn't even work on Fridays, which is the day that we had decided to come out. But we happen to be very lucky today. At least, so we thought.
Oh, brother!
We decided to go down the street near a grade crossing, near where we had seen the locomotives off in the distance, to find the local train reversing. And then, before we knew it, it had completely vanished.
What?
Oh my goodness, bro. We legit started freaking out because if you remember the last time we were out here, the Herzog train that we had ran up upon quite literally evaporated into thin air and we never saw it again. Fortunately, this time we did find the train.
Thank you!
I'd mentioned before that if there aren't locals running this route, the only trains that you could potentially see are as-needed grain trains. Grain trains that terminate here at Pilgrim's Pride Feed Mill, whose feed will be used for poultry production, which is a pretty big business in this area. And like all mills, you always have some sort of trackage laying adjacent for cars to be stored. And it would be on these storage tracks that we would finally find the power of CSX L821. So for now, we at least had an eye on the locomotives, and we knew that we were going to see them leave. In the meantime, however, we turned our attention back to the Norfolk Southern side. I mentioned before the Norfolk Southern Greenville District, the Greenville District that actually runs through Gainesville, Georgia, and in fact actually interchanges with the CSX Gainesville Midland Subdivision. However, our attention to the main line wouldn't be drawn by any interchange activity. It would rather be with this.
Whoa.
A BNSF H2 Mac sitting on the side, and behind it, a growing RJ Corman presence.
It's lit in here, huh?
Now, in case you're wondering what's going on here, gotta wait till next video.
Disappointed!
Besides all this rather unorthodox activity going on next to the tracks, there was a mainline train coming by, Norfolk Southern 50G, a northbound loaded grain train heading for Baldwin, Georgia. So the plan was for us to wait for 50G to pass by and then return back to the Gainesville Midland Subdivision and then wait for L821 to depart. But wouldn't you know it, as we were hearing the horn of 50G off in the distance, oh my lord, L821 started moving.
Yes!
So now we have a CSX local running behind us, there is a 50G that is running towards us, and there is RJ Corman trucks and equipment just popping up everywhere. There was too much going on at once. And being at a sudden crossroads of what to do, I decided to just stay put and sit here as 50G came by, and fortunately L821 was just working and not leaving. As 50G departs, it's now time for us to turn our attention solely back to the Gainesville Midland Subdivision, where now L821, after pulling out from some of the storage tracks, begins to reverse again into more storage tracks next to the feed mill here. At this point, LA21 had stopped. I'm assuming they were picking up more cars before they eventually started blasting their horn and making their southbound exit from Gainesville. With L821 gone, it was now time for the chase to begin. Before we did, however, we of course got stopped by some Norfolk Southern traffic. This time being of a local Norfolk Southern job. I'm assuming this was either P81? There's a few Norfolk Southern locals that run out of this area, so I'm not too sure which one this was. This local was actually completing its work, hence why the conductor just hopped off and is getting ready to throw the switch so that they could store the locomotive on the sidetrack. But besides all that, it was time for us to go back to the Gainesville Midland. After returning to the crossing that we had visited at the beginning of this outing, we decided to go a little bit further down the street and return back to this crossing, surrounded by a few industries, some tank cars sitting on the side, and the headlights of L821, which never came up here for whatever reason.
Oh my God.
Oh, my butt's too big.
Excuse me.
We sat here for a little bit as the rain started pouring until we eventually realized that the reason that they were not coming up here was because there was another industry that they had to work.
What?
The reason LA21 had been picking up cars from the Pilgrim's Pride feed mill tracks was to distribute them to many industries that lie along the CSX Gainesville Midland branch. And this is just one of them, one that we were actually unaware of at the time. And so it was a little bit more of a wait until eventually the locomotive started pulling up. And then they started reversing once more. And while they did that, Atlanta Railtrain Productions was actually still staying in Gainesville, Georgia, watching all the RJ Corman stuff, which we'll get to eventually, don't worry, I didn't miss all of it, while our other two friends were up truck spotting like a bunch of nerds. And we had another friend join us, a good buddy, Silver at Comet Media, a friend who had a lot of knowledge of this area and who would be the source of plenty of future lore and future videos. Anyways, back to L821, they split off from some of the consists and started reversing a few cars back into the industry. So we knew that we had some time to kill before they eventually left. So under the guidance of Silver Comet Media now, all four of us decided to continue down the street to this crossing. This crossing being at the bottom of a grade and giving us some good visuals as to how difficult it is to run these trains, and honestly how crazy it is that they run loaded grain trains up this hill.
Wow.
Fortunately for the CSX crew of today, their consist would be coming down, and it wouldn't be too long of a wait before we eventually heard a horn and saw headlights of L821 descending this steep grade as it continues towards Pendergrass. Another spot off the list, and back to more chasing. LA21's next stop is Ampro Products, which according to online is a manufacturer of custom blended animal protein feed supplements. So in short form, more poultry byproducts, yet another testament of how big the industry is in this area. With it going uphill and also needing to stop once again, we easily beat LA21 to where it was stopping. Here from this distance, we can see the conductor getting down and getting ready to throw some switches so that LA21 could start backing up into the Ampro trackage here. It looked like they were making a few pickups and a few drop-offs here before they continued down toward Pendergrass. In the midst of them working, something really crazy happened.
What do you mean by that?
And I gotta give the full explanation. So the lore behind what's about to happen actually goes back to that first spot at that hill where we had first seen LA21 departing Gainesville. If you couldn't tell, there was a business at that crossing, and one of the business employees actually came out to us and told us, hey, just be careful in case any CSX equipment comes by, because they informed all the businesses along the line that they were gonna be replacing all the crossings and therefore had to rip up the road at some crossings and honestly inhibit whatever business was happening behind a given crossing. Fortunately, right here, they hadn't torn up the crossing yet, but at Ampro, they had. And if you look closely at the tracks here, you can see that there are crossbucks next to the road, but all of the asphalt has been ripped out. And unfortunately, it appeared that there were some trucks that were unaware of this happening because they had stopped, which created a backup. And there was a small red car that got a little bit impatient. So, in this need to save 5 to 10 seconds, the individual driving this car tried to go onto the shoulder and drive around this pickup truck. And I kid you not, they drove into a ditch.
Bruh.
Oh my God.
You what?
Y'all, I cannot make this up. This car literally drove into a ditch right in front of us.
Help! Help!
And once they got in, they were not getting out.
I can't do this.
We could see based on the labels on the back of the car that this was only a front-wheel drive car, so they were cooked. They were not getting out. And unfortunately for them, there was nothing that we could really do, honestly, besides just watch in shock as we could not believe what we had just seen. And honestly, how goofy it was. Like, my brother in Christ, it was 10 seconds that you were trying to save, and look what you got yourself into.
No, they got front wheel drive. But he deserves it, bro.
He tried to save 5 or 10 seconds.
He really tried to go out on the right, man. Bro, not even on like a regular, a narrow 2-lane road with busy traffic, bro.
Meanwhile, while all of this was going on, CSX LA21 had finally coupled back to the rest of its contest and was now getting ready to leave Ampro. And so, as our car here continues its struggle to get out of the ditch, and someone else tried getting out to, I think, call 911 or something, LA21 bypasses us as we get ready to continue our chase. From here, we began navigating more of the very steep grades that are on this line. Part of the reason why this line is very cool to see, and honestly, part of the reason why there's not a lot of trains around here. And just past this hill, on the descent, we would find ourselves here. Off in the distance, we can actually see LA21's causes bypassing another facility. this facility belonging to Heidelberg Materials, which, in contrast to all the other poultry-based companies that we've been seeing along this line, is actually an aggregate stone operation. They work with some sort of ballast or stone or something, whatever requires a lot of big trucks to be coming in and out of this area. And it would be here that we would find L821 making its slow crawl towards Pendergrass. Unfortunately for us, Silver Common Media actually informed us that the road was closed just down from here. So we weren't going to be able to continue down chasing on this road, but we would be able to go around a shortcut and find ourselves here. Currently, we are in Talmo, Georgia, a very vintage city, which has definitely not forgotten its railroad history. This town was very quiet, not a lot of activity going on, but it honestly felt cool, like we were in some sort of model railroad layout. As now, we sat here waiting for the last shot of the day of L821 continuing its job. And we decided to be gooning around a little bit on the tracks before the train arrived. L821 would continue working, but this would be the last shot of our day. Because we decided to head right back to Gainesville because we wanted to see what was left of whatever our Jacomo was doing with that Mac. To get the full story on that, you'll have to wait till next video. Until then, my friends, I hope that you guys enjoyed chasing along the Gainesville Midland branch as much as I sincerely did. I've been waiting for this for a long time. And until next time, God bless. I will see you soon out on the high iron.